Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z. Martin, and tonight we are looking at Roads Not Traveled, Season 12. What are some of the dropped plot threads, the possibilities that they didn't run with, the alternatives that they could have considered, and where might that have taken us? But before we start, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Elektra.
That was me?
Yep.
I'm Elektra. I'm a writer and an editor, and I started watching Supernatural from that very first episode aired, and I watched it until that very last episode. It made me cry.
Carole?
Hi, I'm Carole M. Stokes. I've been a fan since season 3, started writing fanfic under the name Firesign 10 in 2012. And I'm also one of the co-hosts of the Spotify podcast, So Get This, The Lore of Supernatural Fanfiction.
Lola.
My name's Lola Lariscy. I've got a dog who's barking, and I've been a fan of Supernatural since 2005.
Very good. Melissa and Kitty.
Hi, I've been fangirling the show since the pilot aired in 2005. Kitty was late to the party. She only joined in 2020.
And I'm Gail Z. Martin and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all my modern day worlds are ones Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. Fell in love with the show in the middle of season 11, binge watched 11 seasons in 4 months for the start of season 12, and I went down the rabbit hole and have never caught them. Hope I never do. Happily proud of being an obsessed fan. So, season 12. You know, a lot of stuff happened, love it or hate it. There were a bunch of big turns and twists. But let's go around and give one road not taken, one thing that might have gone different, and we'll just keep going around till we run out of time or plot threads. Elektra?
Well, here's the big one. They start with Mary is there because Amara brought her back. What if Amara had brought back not just Mary, but Mary and John? Because mom and dad are way better than just mom.
Okay.
Oh, that's for dad's A+ parenting?
No, that's for John and Mary's A+ parent.
Maybe if they're together, they can eke out like a B, whereas they're usually D's separately.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe between them, yeah.
Okay, so John and Mary back like we had in Lebanon very briefly, but
Together.
And they would have held hands and run off into the sunset and abandoned Sam and Dean completely, but you know, Sam and Dean would have been happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or they came, or I'm sorry, I'm going to say, or they came back and thought it was still like 1975, and they're like, "Hey, let's go get married." Didn't realize they had kids. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Mary tended to forget that part frequently anyhow. Carole?
So I kind of had that, what if Mary didn't come back, which would be a whole thing. Or what if instead of Mary, John came back? So not together, but just John instead of Mary, which would have, been a whole new series of sons and dad conflict rather than sons and mom conflict. Or what if neither John or Mary came back and it was Adam? And we got to explore that whole other aspect that we were so rudely robbed of. And
I like that.
Yeah. And so Adam comes back and they actually get to know the real Adam, not Adam the Ghoul, and, bring him into the fold as a hunter and round out their relationship as a trio in terms of hunting and having each other's back and all that stuff. And I think that would have been, even the John thing would have been more fruitful in terms of relationship. I will absolutely confess that when Mary came on the scene in that last few seconds of the episode, I screamed I was like, yeah. And I thought, oh, this is really exciting. And unfortunately, season 12 really disabused me of that excitement really fast. So, what if John came back and they got to get into that relationship more, delve into it, deal with issues, or then Adam and they could have a brother and feel that they were a bit more of their own dynasty, the legacies. I think either of those would have been really interesting new tangents for them to explore. And, even if they had kept Mary, they could have gone such a different direction and made it meaty, meaningful, flesh out this whole thing. And I mean, I feel that no slight to Samantha Smith, who I think played the hell out of everything she was given. But oh my God, did they not
Know
how
what to do
write
with
for a
her.
woman? Yeah, they didn't know what to do with her. They didn't know how to write a woman. And it just went down in flames.
Yeah. Lola?
Okay, I've rewatched 4 episodes today, so I've got 4. Most of them are silly, but that's okay. First one, Keep Calm and Carry On. That's the first episode of the season. And Sam is kidnapped by Lady Tony, not the Mickey Tony, but a different Tony. So he's
What if it had
kidnapped.
been Mickey Tony?
That would have been excellent. Even with a British accent too. That would have been awesome. But
Jensen rediscovers his cheerleader.
He remembers that song. He's old enough. That was probably his first crush, Tony Basil. But this is Tony Beppel, unfortunately. And there's a scene where she opens up a shower on him, and he's getting just pummeled with water, and his hair is all, straight, and I just thought, what if he flips his head back? A feeling from Flashdance. And then he starts chair dancing and, flipping his hair. It's just a whole scene that I imagined. I imagined that pretty much all the way through too.
Well, we did get to see in the Winchesters, JoJo's holy hair, the flipping the hair with the holy water. So,
So what a feeling, Flashdance. I want that musical interlude.
Melissa?
Well, I might as well just keep on with the theme. And it's because Elektra planted this in, excuse me, Kitty's trying to fall off the couch. Elektra planted it in my head. What if Amara brought back John and Mary? But because, think about that. Mary is going to be horrified at the way John treats, maybe Mary is horrified at the way John treats the boys. She doesn't treat them any better. John is horrified about the fact that she's leaving them, although pot kettle. I just think that rather than the relationship between the two of them and the boys, it would have been really interesting to see the relationship between the two of them, because in Lebanon, it's Hearts and Roses, which wasn't their relationship to begin with, but okay. They've both been dead and whatever, we'll let it go with that.
Death makes the heart grow fonder.
Clearly. But it would have been really interesting to see the dynamic between the two of them as their boys are adults and all the terrible things John did, and just Mary. Not a fan. Would have been interesting to see that play out.
Okay.
Kitty agrees.
What if the men of letters, the British men of letters, had more pushback from, surely there were other legacies besides Sam and Dee. Yes, Abaddon killed all of the American men and women of letters, but those people, some of them at least, had kids. What about them? And so I would have loved to have seen, I think it would have made the whole dynamic with the British men of letters and all that much more interesting if there had almost been this rise of the resistance with the legacies. And instead of Sam and Dean, getting Walt and Roy and some scraggly hunters together, let's find what happened to the other legacies, kind of kind of like a twist on Azazel's Special Children, and find them and mobilize them against the Brits. That would have been really fun and would have taken us deeper into the whole mythology of the men of letters, British or American, and how they differed. And instead, we didn't get that. So I would have liked to have seen that kind of thing happen, that dug deeper into the men of letters mythology, and not some of the directions that we did go.
And you know they'd have to have an episode called Boston Tea Party, and it would take place in Boston. I'm just saying, I'm handing it to them.
Well, back to you, Elektra. Give us another one.
All right. In the episode with the watch that contained the soul of Hitler, how about when Sam calls Aaron to say, you know, we think we've got something with the Thule here. Aaron says, oh my gosh, you do. And him and the Golem hop on the plane to help Sam and Dean out. And okay, Dean gets to kill Hitler, but they decide to stay around and deal with this men of letters thing. And now they've got backup.
Oh, I would have loved to have seen more of Aaron Bass and his Golem. They were cool and they weren't utilized enough.
Well, and Mr. Ketch is a pain in the ass. And I think, you know, countering him with Gollum would have been fun.
Or what if they crossed with the Golem from Lord of the Rings? I'm sorry.
I was thinking, not that
Oh, my
Golem.
precious.
Sorry.
Hey, that would be a good alternative
Yeah.
too. My precious.
Carol, how about you?
So I'm going to go, of course, with more men of letters stuff because they were such a central plot device. What if they had actually been helpful and like allies, like real allies, not we're going to, we're not just going to come in and romp all over you and kill you all off and stuff, but genuine allies with all of their assets and their knowledge. And what a wasted opportunity. You know, like I can even see fine. So we had, you know, the Dolores Umbridge head of it all. And so like we still just axe her and move on. But, you know, Mick could have been great. And Ketch was, you know, working things out with Dean on an assassin kind of level. And there could have been a lot of interesting stuff going on, but they were not nice.
Mm-hmm.
It could have, because the British men of letters were more like the learned book knowledge, you know, and then Ketch, you know, it was like the hunters and then the eggheads. It would have been really interesting. And instead of trying to like force their will on the American hunters, if they'd been humble enough to recognize that the American hunters do bring something to the table, it could have been really interesting. And it would have been good for Mick to learn earlier that not all monsters are monsters. Right? Because that's a valuable lesson that by this point in the series, Sam and Dean know. And Mitch learns it, but late.
Lola?
My next one is also from the Hitler episode. It's called The One You've Been Waiting For. So in this episode, we find out that Hitler's soul has been in a locket for almost 75 years. First, I'm not so sure about that. But secondly, I kind of feel like the people in hell should have been like, wait, somebody's missing here. I can't put my finger on it. I feel like
somebody's missing roll call.
Yeah, somebody's missing their muster. Someone's missing someone important, someone big. And then they would have realized eventually, wait, Hitler's not here. And so it would have been like part of the initiation. If you're going to be anyone in hell, you have to go out and try to find Hitler. And instead of a holy grail, they could call it their unholy heil.
There you go.
So, and that's their thing. You go out and you look for Hitler's soul, and if you don't find it, you die. And that's how they lose a lot of people in hell, which
Sort
is
of like
okay.
Where's Waldo, only with Hitler.
Where's Hitler? And people have looked on the moon.
And lethal repercussions.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And everyone who looks dies because they can't find him. So that's like the big, mystery in hell. Even Crowley doesn't know.
Melissa?
You know, it's kind of hard to top that. But I'll try. Rock Never Dies. What if Lucy doesn't actually burn out Rick Springfield's body? What if Rick is some sort of a perfect, you know, whatever that thing was, that trope of, you know, you have to be the perfect vessel. What if Springfield was one of those perfect vessels
Wouldn't
for
he?
Lucy? And then we just get, and this is nothing against Pellegrino, except that, you know, by this point in the series, I was kind of tired of Pellegrino. I was tired of the way they were writing his version of Lucifer. I would have been quite happy to see Rick Springfield as the devil for the rest of the show. Thank you very much. Just saying.
I have to laugh every time we have Sirius XM and Rick Springfield does a gig as a guest DJ on the 80s show called Working Class DJ. And I always think of it more as Satan on Sirius. I'm going to go with Lotus. And this is, I think, one of the worst written episodes in the season, if not maybe the entire series. Not that I have an opinion on this, because the boys are suddenly stupid. When have they ever waited around to get caught? Especially when this means getting caught with the President of the United States. Cass blithely walks off with Kelly Klein. Crowley disappears. Why? This was an absolute setup of forced errors that were entirely out of character. And if you're going to try to manipulate the boys into getting caught by the Secret Service, at least let them be smart and have their clever, they have an escape plan. It's really clever, but the Secret Service somehow figured it out. You know,
Well, because they're competent.
yes. Having them just sit around, oh, the president, he's fainted. You know, he has people for that. You don't have to be the ones waiting around for him to wake up. His whole staff for that. So that episode was just, and then it takes Cass and Mary how long to figure out where they are when they could go to the men of letters who have all these nifty, sneaky spy things and could have found this hidden place, which they eventually do. Why did it take them, 3 weeks or something like that? And then I've also got to question the length of time that it took to break the Winchesters. Solitary confinement is indeed a form of torture, but it was a matter of weeks. There are documented cases of just normal human beings who aren't Winchesters who survived much longer in solitary as prisoners of war and did not suddenly decide to off themselves with the help of a Reaper. I thought that, you know, Sam and Dean at this point have both been to hell and back. They've been through an awful lot. The idea that solitary was going to break them that quickly just rang totally false to me, to make them that desperate. So for a lot of reasons, that's probably my least favorite episode of the season, because it just threw logic completely out the window to say, wouldn't it be neat to have these guys in an undisclosed secret black ops location? And
Just over 6 weeks.
yeah, which if you look at, you know, the history of like people in the Hanoi Hilton, that wasn't much. Terrible, but
in our prison system, we lock people away for years. And granted, at some point it does have an impact on a person's mental health, but 6 weeks, these guys are Winchesters. Sam was doing calculus in his head, and Dean was figuring out what else he could do with the with the grenade launcher. That's where he gets the idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Back to you, Elektra.
There were so many, Lotus, there were so many lost pieces in that episode. The beginning of the episode, Lucifer had been a guy referred to as Wallace Parker, the CEO of almost everything, which I think is supposed to have been Warren Buffett or the equivalent of Warren Buffett.
I was thinking Walmart.
How did they not do an episode where he was Wallace Parker and he had like infinite amounts of money and could just do whatever he wanted? Because the president is followed around by Secret Service and has fairly limited things he can do. I mean, the president can't even drive his own car.
That's true. He can't
Other than out of his driveway. I mean, he can't drive it out of the driveway. There's very limited things he can do. And rich guys, on the other hand, can do whatever the hell they please, and they have unlimited money.
He could have been Beyonce. And then what would we do if we didn't have Beyonce?
Well, he was Beyonce. He was Vince Vincente.
Yeah, that's true.
He already was her. And then he was like a guy in head of a diocese. So, you know, he was a big church guy, except it turns out that people in the church notice when you act weird. They figure out you're possessed and they try to exorcise you.
Well, especially when all the crucifixes flip around.
Yeah, the crosses turn around whenever you walk by.
That was kind of a dead giveaway.
That was a nice touch. I wish they'd done more with him being Wallace Parker. I could have stood that being a whole episode of Lucifer as rich guy just demanding, you know, I want you to get me, you know, a plate full of marinated pigeon tongues with, you know, a side order of this and that, you know, something fancy.
He could be Elon Musk.
Or yeah, I was gonna say, or he buys Twitter. Well, you know, the other thing in that episode that didn't ring true at all was they had that egg and they were going to trap Lucifer in the egg. And somebody said he can't go into the pit in his vessel. Hello, swan song. That was only the you know, denouement of season 5. What do you mean he can't go into the pit in his vessel? Hello, have you watched the show?
Apparently not.
They trapped him in the egg. I thought the egg just forced him out of the vessel.
I think they thought it was, there was something that they thought they were going to.
Forced him out of the vessel.
Yeah.
And then he ended up back in Nick pretty much.
Yeah. The vessel with the pestle.
Mm-hmm.
It just forced, I watched that episode today. I can reliably tell you, it just forced him out.
Okay. Carol.
Thank you, Melissa, for getting that reference.
What? Doesn't everybody get that? I just didn't think we wanted to all sing about it. Everybody knows Danny Kaye.
What if Sam or Dean had killed Tony Bevel right at the get-go? Like, just...
There would have been much rejoicing.
You know, like, how has she got anything on them in terms of reflexes or anything? I mean, it just seemed
they're very reluctant to hit girls. That's how they were raised.
But it just was like, oh my God, you know, accent in a pantsuit. And yeah, so what if they just had offed her right there, right then? And we could have been spared. We still could have even had the British men of letters, because I wasn't adverse to them. There was some interesting material in there and some interesting conflicts, but we didn't have to get into, you know, the torturing of Sam and just how the venal and nasty that Tony Bevel was.
Mm-hmm.
I could have done without that.
Yeah.
She wanted a promotion, so she was into the torture.
Yeah.
They didn't want to make friends. They were here to, you know,
exterminate.
It was unclear
like
exactly how wiping out the
the
hunters here was going to fix the U.S.
Yeah, they did have rather murky goals. Lola?
Am I frozen? Oh,
no.
Okay. So I have one for Lotus. So I'll go ahead and do it. Lotus is the one we were talking about where the president is inhabited by Lucifer. So in that episode, his girlfriend is played by Courtney Ford. Now, I love this lady. She's married to Brandon Ruth, and I just want to be her so I could be married to Brandon Ruth. But anyways, that's beside the point. So she was also in Legends of Tomorrow. Now, in Legends of Tomorrow, her character became a fairy godmother. I know that Dean hates fairies because of the episode with the guy from Star Trek. Keep up, Voyager. Okay, so he hates fairies. What would have happened if Kelly Klein was actually a fairy godmother? And so when she had a baby by Lucifer, Jack ended up being half fairy and half demon, archangel. Would Dean still have liked him, or would he have microwaved him? What would a half archangel demon look like? Would he be smaller? Would Jack be forced to count all the bodies as they drop around him? It's just interesting to think about.
Would he glow and have wings and nipples? I
Yeah,
mean, we don't know
and
that.
would it be a cross between fairy wings and big archangel wings? But I mean, it's very interesting to think about. I'd like to see that.
Okay. Melissa.
Let's see.
Where do we go from here?
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much.
See what Kitty has to say. Kitty?
What if what if Cass doesn't kill Billy, and Billy goes ahead and reaps Mary? Then we don't have Billy becoming Death, and we have that whole thing later on in the series with Billy being Death and how that works against the boys. So what if that happens, and then we don't if Mary gets reaped there, then we don't have Mary falling into Apocalypse World, and we don't have the boys having to go to Apocalypse World. I'm not a huge fan of Apocalypse World. To me, the only thing that came out of it was that when they brought all the Apocalypse people back, we got to see Sam in a really strong leadership role, which he always would have been able to do, but we didn't have an excuse to see it. So that was like the only good thing. So there we go.
Okay.
We get Mary off the board.
The life and celebrating the life of Asa Fox. This is when we find out that Mary had continued hunting after she married John.
Mm-hmm.
And what if John had found out? What if that's, that fight that they had in the episode where Dean's remembering, being a child, and I think that was the Heaven episode, and the parents were fighting. What if that was some of the tension there, was that John found out that Mary was doing something and either thought she was cheating or because she wouldn't tell him what was going on. And maybe that factored into some of his guilt later about her death, that he didn't believe her. He didn't believe that she, what she told him about the supernatural. I think that could have been really interesting. I also would have liked to have seen a bit more of a smackdown fight between Jody and Mary, when Jody's kind of telling Mary that she sucks as a mother, and Mary kind of doesn't get it. So I would have liked to have seen that. And one of the standouts in that episode is the guy who you think he is fanboying Sam at first, because he keeps asking these things like, what was it like to be Lucifer's vessel? And then you find out, no, he's really fanboying Lucifer. And he was the possessed guy. So it would have been fun to see them catch on to him a little faster than they did. But I think there were some real possibilities in that episode that we didn't get to see. Back to you, Elektra.
That whole thing with Mary continuing to occasionally hunt reminded me of Helen Mirren's character in Red, when she owned a B&B, but she occasionally took on assignment just, to keep her hand in.
Mm-hmm.
The episode Ladies Drink Free, featuring Gail's favorite character, Claire, What if Claire had just remained a werewolf? And being Claire, she had organized all the werewolves in North America and gotten them in line and gotten them to stop killing people and gotten them to stop making other werewolves and just gotten the whole thing, organized and regimented, and it gave her something to do with all that restless energy she had.
Plus they'll have a
putting into
dental
hunting.
plan. Plus they'll have a dental plan.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Got to keep
The
those
web-
things sharp and white.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, she got them all going to Garth.
Yeah, so they got, they just need a MD,
Mhm.
And fast forward 15 years and she's the werewolf representative to Congress.
Mhm.
I love it. Yeah, she's in the cabinet.
I think I may have broken Melissa.
I think so. But that's fun. That's the highlight of my night.
Carol?
What if there were no Claire to begin with? What if we never revisit that Castiel, I love the flashback episode where we see how Castiel comes into being. I love that. And the pain he goes through and the sacrifices he makes. But here we are years later down the pike. I'm even okay. Fine. Let's meet Claire, but let's have her ride off into the sunset. Let's have her decide the last thing she wants to do is be a hunter or work with angels or anything because of the way they have damaged her life, killed her family, yada, yada, yada. And we just say, sayonara. So much angst we could have been spared. So much snark, so much Clareness. And this is definitely an unpopular opinion, and I'm sorry for everybody who does like Claire, but
Well,
what if it just
keep in mind, all the other angels in Castiel's flight have managed to hang on to their vessels. Maybe, he should have hung on to his for all that time. The 150 years or so, and should still be running around as a woman.
Yeah.
Certainly
Lola?
would have helped with Dean.
Yeah. Lola?
Well, I was gonna say, or they could try something.
Oh, you just went silent.
You're muted, Lola.
Muted.
Okay. I have one to say, but I was also going to add, wouldn't it be novel if the angels found people without children or families to inhabit? I mean, get all
So
that
much-
messiness out.
yeah, so much
Ethical recycling.
Right.
collateral damage that they don't have to deal with.
Yeah, I'm not offering myself up. I mean, I don't have children or a husband or wife or anything, so I'm not offering
You want to
myself
be
up.
an angel?
No, because they're all dicks,
Well,
every one of them.
Or people, or angels like Benjamin found a vessel who was, what did he say? A holy person who was into the whole idea of being a vessel.
And that's fine if they want to, if that's what they want to do. They want to do
And love
something.
video games. So, something for everybody.
Yeah. All right. So the one I'm actually going to do is from Celebrating the Life of Asa Fox again. So this is the one where they all go up to Canada. I wonder if they've ever been there before. They all go up to Canada to go to a wake for this guy we've never heard of called Asa Fox. Turns out he's a legend. And we see a flashback where Mary met him when he was a child and she saved his life. Now, forget he was a child at that point. What if he'd been an adult? Say it was before she met John, or during when she was married, who knows? But say it was before she met John and he's an adult and they kind of get together and like, what's happening? Let's make some beautiful music. And they go their separate ways, but it was fond memories and all that stuff. And then maybe she was so young, she had a child and she gave it up for adoption because she was so young. And then cut to 35, 40 years later, and the Winchesters go to this thing for Asa Fox, and they find out that he and their mother had a child together. And it's the flashbacks to finding out that John had a child that they didn't know about. So of course you're going to have a whole episode's worth of angst there because their mother, withheld information and they realized they don't know their mother the way they thought. So it'd be a nice parallel to John, having a second family.
Okay. Okay. Melissa?
Can I not go after Lola for the next panel because she keeps stumping me?
I spend a lot of time. I mean, I spend the whole day on this stuff.
It's a tough act to follow. All right, so I hate to do this, but I'm gonna. Celebrating the life of Asa Fox. We all know that I love Mary more than I love John. This is a well-known thing, although I don't talk about it very much. Carol's like knows where I'm headed. What if Mary, seeing the example of what motherly concern looks like, exemplified in Jody, what if Mary says, maybe I should actually stick around and get to know who my boys are instead of running off because, woe is me, I've been returned to earth from heaven and, oh, it's so hard and difficult to be me. But wait, she wouldn't do that because she didn't actually care, because she didn't actually try to protect Sam. And this is the episode that we find out that Mary was still a hunter and she did not do jack or spit to keep Azazel away from Sam. Sorry, that's my headcanon, and I'm just going to sit here and stew with it.
No, that's a very good point, because she really sold Sam down the river and doesn't get called on it nearly as much to account as I think she deserved.
Yeah, she
And I
gave
think
her
some of that
son
is
up.
the whole, roulette wheel of writers in the writers' room where they're like, hey, let's do this and throw a dart, or, oh, we're 12 seasons into this show. Oh, we don't need to watch the first 6.
Yeah.
To understand what's been going on, because there's so many continuity, glitches in there that they're just, it's the.
I would love to see at a supernatural convention a writers panel where we get some of the major writers or showrunners and just have to face, because we all have like books and pages and notes and tons of stuff stuffed in our brain. And how many times when we were doing these and just talking about it in fandom, like, what were they thinking? I would go to anywhere in the world if one of the cons put on a writer's panel or a showrunner's panel so that they could face the music from the fans about why they did some of the strange things they did.
Melissa and I are up for Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
Here.
Yep. Well, I'm going to say Twigs Twine and Tasha Barnes this time around, because I would have loved to have seen them show up in subsequent episodes and see how they were dealing with the bargain that they made, the witchcraft that he used to keep his sister with him. There was such a great parallel there with the brothers. I wanted to see how this was working out for him. Did she go evil? Did she turn out okay? I would have loved to have seen them show up and be part of the final battle with God. And, as they gather their Avenger team, of people with special abilities, we never really get any closure with the twins. And I think that I would have loved to have seen a couple more episodes with them and a couple fewer with Lucifer. Just saying.
They could have interacted with.
He got old. Yeah.
They did. They just ran out of things to do with him. It's another case where I think Mark Pellegrino did the best he could with the material he was given, but they were beating a dead horse at a certain point there. Well, one more quick round, folks. So, Elektra?
Who we are near the end of the season. What if Tony hadn't lied and she spent 5 minutes with Mary and undid all of the brainwashing? And then Mary and Dean were able to join the crew going to beat the crap out of the British men of letters in their bunker. And you know, they found a way to let Tony go back to England, maybe, you know, with a few bits cut so that she couldn't do any damage. I don't know, you know, missing Achilles or something.
Okay.
Because she couldn't move too fast. She did a little bit too much torture for me to let her go, you know, with no damage at all.
Okay. Carol?
American Nightmare. What if Magda hadn't been killed? That was such sad collateral damage. What if, having been saved by Sam the way she was able to just at least move on into the world, live her life. And there even could have been interesting ramifications down the pike where we talk about one-off characters who then come back to assist the Winchesters, or, you know, get wrapped into the collaboration field with other people and stuff. And Magda could have come back and done that, or at least, you know, not have soured for the horrible existence she led, to then be cut down at the end of it was just needless and terrible. What if she had at least been spared to go off and, you know, live her life?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Lola?
I'm tapped out. I got my 4. I'm done.
Okay. Melissa?
Keep calm and carry on. It's always bugged me that Dean didn't go after Tony, hunt her down and kill her. It is unbelievable to me. So what if Dean, you know, he takes care of Sammy, he gets Sammy on his feet, and he vanishes for the bunker for a few days because he's going to hunt that. He's going to hunt her down, and he's going to flay her alive. We get her off the board, and if Tony's off the board that early, there's no brainwashing Mary and all the bullshit that Mary did while she was brainwashed, all the hunters she killed and all that other stuff. So there's let's get her off the board early.
Or he tries to follow her to England. He's up in the plane and he gets nauseous and they have to turn the plane around.
Okay.
When
Because
you
he
get
hates flying.
nauseous on a plane, they do not turn it around.
Well,
Only you have
They
explosive
give you a glass of
on
cold
the
water,
diarrhea.
tell you to lie down and
It-
suck it up.
he might have explosive diarrhea. That did happen recently. So
I think that was a dog, though. And I still
He's
don't know
been a
why that
dog
dog was
before.
in first class.
he's
But
been a dog.
that's
before.
another whole topic. I'm going to go with Lily Sunders has some regrets, because I thought Lily was a really interesting character. He probably had a ticket, but I'm just saying. Anyhow, I thought Lily was a very interesting character, and I was sorry to see that she didn't get to stick around longer, but she had an interesting backstory. She's another one of those people that I would have liked to have seen make it to the finale and be there to stand up against God. And instead, you know, she used up the last of her soul to save Sam. But I thought that
Save Sam or to save Jack?
Save Jack. And I think that was another one of those side characters that we could have seen more of and had a little more interesting experiences with, because she did have an interesting backstory.
She's incredibly interesting.
Yeah. Well, folks, we have run through our time. So let's go around real quick and let people know where we can find you online. Elektra?
I'm Elektra Hammond. You can find out everything about me at untilmidnight.com, and look for me on Mastodon at Elektra at wandering.shop.
Okay. Carol?
You can find me on Facebook in the TFWNC group, and on many, 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 many continual panels as Ellis Colton. You can find all my social media links at elliscolton.card, CARRD.co, including my books on Amazon and Smashwords, and the links are there.
Very good. Lola?
My name is Lola Lariscy. I'm also a writer. I have one book out. I'm trying to finish the other one. You can Google me. You'll find me and a bunch of dead old people, but A's one of them.
Okay, Melissa.
You can find me on Twitter, Tin Hat Daydreams, mind the profile, or here on Continual Panels or in the TFWNC Facebook group that you moderate.
And I'm pretty easy to find at morganbryce.com, gailzmartin.com. All my socials are under one or both of those names. So if you spell them right, you'll find me. I do run the Supernatural TFWNC group here on Facebook. I am a columnist for the Winchester Family Business blog, currently reviewing Walker season 4. But most of the time I'm here on Continual. So thank you guys so much for being here. This has been a lot of fun. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural coming up soon. So we'll see you online.